Hey group, out here in the forest today. No survival though. I've got my electrical bag full of all kinds of goodies and a solar panel because I'm gonna go ahead and modify an old feeder I have, which is up there. We'll bring that thing down. It's been out here in the forest for about 20 years now. Been running the entire time, but charging batteries every 3 or 4 months has gotten, well, tedious. And our forest has changed quite a bit. We have light coming through it now. Wasn't always like this. So, good time to put a solar panel in. Let's get started. This feeder again is upwards of 20 years old, which means some parts have been changed out, the wiring's been screwed with, and a lot of parts are not original. Like this timer here, this is probably the cheapest one you can get off the internet, and it's been running for almost 3 years, which isn't terrible. Got a fuse right here, make sure that, well, this is the most sensitive piece of electronics, that it doesn't burn up. We also have a battery right here. That's 12 volt. They're not bad, but they go bad within a couple years. This is a lead acid. With the solar panel, trickle charging, I've had them last up to 5 years, which is a huge improvement. The last little bit is the motor downstairs. And it's a fairly large motor for a deer feeder. It's able to fling the corn way on out there, which is nice. This thing's usually topped off with corn, and it just gravity feeds down there every time this thing fires off. So 3 times a day for this feeder, 3 seconds per feeding. This thing stays, well, filled up for something like 4 weeks at a time. We feed them all through the year and take care of our creatures. Alright, we'll get to the wiring here in just a moment. First off though, we'll put this solar panel on. Now we're using a 12 volt solar panel. It's going to rate at 14 volts, a little over 14. This is just an old one that we have laying around. There's quite a few of these. Very few amps, probably 1.25 watts, not much, but for these feeders, it doesn't take a lot. Got a drill, just find those out in the woods. Power tester, just in case. Sharpie, and a few other goodies. First off though, to get our wiring connections where we need to go ahead and put them in the box, get this thing mounted. I'm also going to go ahead and use this Sharpie to mark out where I need to drill my holes. Now 3 of these are going to be for bolts, and 1 is going to be for my power cable. I'm going to go ahead and drill out all 4 of them. Pretty easy once you remember these are reverse drill bits. To see if our bolts still line up. Okay, 3 nuts, 3 bolts. See how we did. It's always the easiest one. And tight. There we go. Out of 3. Last one. Alright. All 3 on there. It's time to go ahead, tighten them up. There we go. All we have left to do, take our positive negative wires, feed them through to the inside of our feeder. Now for a lot of our feeders, we have to make sure that this cable on the outside is armored, because raccoons will try and rip apart the electronics. That's why all these feeders are locked up. This one, however, with this cable, never had an issue with the raccoons being able to mess with it. Someday one might be able to, but at this point, I feel pretty confident about this one. Cable's on the inside of the feeder. We'll go ahead and put it inside of the electric box. Now below this portion right here, there's a bit of an opening. It's where all the other wires are feeding up into it, or down through it, to get into the motor. And we're just going to take our wire and push it up through there. There you go. Alright. Before I go any further, let's go ahead and check power. It's 12 volt DC. And look at that battery real fast. Well, this thing's probably not registering a whole lot, to say the least. That's not even a single volt. Most of the time with electronics sensitive ones, that's not going to run anything. This feeder is still kind of working. It's spinning, but that's just because the battery's large enough and the motor down below is simple enough. It's not going to run for much longer. Go ahead and check the solar panel. It doesn't matter which side I go on there. You can see leads. Should be registering now. And there you go. Jumps up whenever I get it right. 14.1. And that's pretty standard. It's a 12 volt solar panel. Most things overcharge at a couple of volts over, and that way all your batteries get topped off. It's not enough to really damage the battery. That's just the kind of the standard when it comes to even your trickle chargers that you're using there in your shop or your garage, stuff like that. Solar panel has voltage, and the battery is just about dead. Now by tomorrow, that will have changed. Even though this battery is pretty much dead, it still has enough to run the timer. So pretty nifty. Simple electronics, do a lot with them. Alright, to the wiring. It is hot out here. This is just about June in South Texas. got electrical connections, wire stripper. I've got this cheap piece of gadgetry. I need to find something better. Really and truly all I need is a reverse diode. But this is supposed to be a trickle charger for a 12-volt system. I'm going to wire it up a little bit different from the diagram. You can only wire it up so many ways. It's real simple. But the idea is that with a simple solar panel like what I have right here, it doesn't have a reverse diode built into it, which most of your solar panels do. What that does is it makes sure that your voltage cannot go back into the solar panel at nighttime. What people don't realize is that some of these solar panels can actually eat energy at night if you don't have a blocker diode on them. And so that's going to be acting as my blocker diode. And a lot of times, if I was messing with more sensitive electronics, what it would do is about 10, 10.5, 11 volts. If my battery got lower than that, it would shut down and not allow me to load anything. Since this is so simple, the timer, the voice is going out, guys. The timer and the battery itself and everything else here, the motor, there's nothing sensitive on this system. So I'm not really worried about having the load flip off or anything else like that. It's just up to you. Alright, so this right here, this is just a little bit of a lead. I've gone ahead and I stripped off the ends, saved me some time back at the house. These are going to be connecting this piece to the battery and onto the solar system. So let's go ahead and pull out all our parts, pieces, and get it going. Got an assorted collection of electrical connections from Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight has a lot of cheap stuff, but every once in a while it can come in handy. And I need 2 spades. These are females, and these are going to go on into and connect to the battery down here. I've already, a long time ago, put the piggybacks on here so you can actually connect 2 sets of spades. It's important though, once you put those piggybacks, that you don't get anything backwards, because you can burn things out, especially if you don't have a fuse going. So I'll hook these on, clamp them down, and I'll also need 4 of these. And those will allow me to connect on to my voltage regulator. So I'm not sure what those are called. I'm going to use the wire strippers, connect some stuff up. There's 2. And get the other side. The last 2 of these will go on to the connections that come from the solar panel. Go ahead and take our charge controller, what I'm again just using as a blocker diode, and we're going to go ahead and connect our tether here to the battery, because the other end is going to be ending up connected to the battery here at the end. Now, just as I said before, the wire that has a white line in it, that's going to be your positive connection. No line, it's going to be negative. So positive, negative, left, right, hook them up. We'll loosen those pieces up, put it in, tighten it down, and we'll get one more part done. Alright, put those 2 pieces down. Got 2 more connections to make, again to our solar power. The last things we'll be connecting to are the battery. Missing connections. Put them on. Crump them down. Pretty cool. Alright. The solar now. Left is white, which means it's positive. Right is black, which makes it negative. Follow the diagram. Connect these up. Tighten them down. Notice as I connect that up, starting to see lights come on up there in the top right. Means things are going right. Now, that's just a solar panel. Nowhere close to an amp is going through this thing. Otherwise, I'd probably be wondering and worried about where the other side of the wires are. Amperage is just not high enough to do any damage. If it was connected up to the battery here and wires touched, I'd be really concerned. But otherwise, just make sure these are tight. Go through each one of them. Lights are all set up. Go through and confirm, make sure we got the right voltage. And then we connect up to the battery. So, let's check that out. Got there so y'all can see it. Left positive, right negative. We should be going straight to solar. 14.1. Same as before. See, it's getting some good sun right there. Now, even if it's overcast, you're still going to be pulling 14 volts for the most part out of this panel. The amperage is just going to be even lower, so it'll trickle charge even on junk days. Up to a point. You will start losing voltage if it gets too dark, or if leaves are messing it over. We go ahead, and this is going to be the output going to the battery, and you have 13.9 going to the battery. So it's brought down 14.1 to 13.9, and that's the idea. Pure solar power right there. At this point, go ahead, put that right there. And here's our last wires to go ahead and connect. So again, if you remember, the voltage down here on this battery was less than 1 volt, which is horrendous. So as we connect this thing up, it might jump in voltage. It might come up quite a bit when we check it in just a moment, but that doesn't really mean it's got the amperage to really push this motor. It's gonna help out our timer over the course of several days. It'll bring this battery back up to condition, but don't let the voltage fool you. So again, we'll see what the big change is. All right, moment of truth. Again, I'm connecting the battery up last because, for the most part, it broke off. I used it too hard. All right, well, this thing's showing its age. The piggyback that I had on this, it just broke off the positive. So that's off. I can take a clamp here in just a moment and put it on there temporarily. Come back with the correct connection here in just a little while and fix that, but movie magic's not going to be in it for this one, guys. Let's go ahead and connect on the negative. Get it on there, assuming it doesn't break off. Maintenance. Always maintenance. Closest Lowe's is 45 minutes away. Alright. Okay. So we're connected up. Again, that is not a good connection back up in here. But check out the change in the lighting. Alright. So it's still showing charging. Now it's showing you that it's way low. and it's telling you what's going on. Now, the load, again, we're not putting anything on this load. What that would do is that once the battery dropped down under something like 10.5, 11 volts, it would shut down and it wouldn't allow any load to go to whatever you're trying to power. And that's just kind of safety for your sensitive electronics to make sure that they stay safe. Otherwise, all we're doing is making sure that this is here to manage the battery, spikes, and again use it as a reverse diode or blocker diode so that voltage does not feed out of this battery at nighttime into the panel and where it gets lost. So let's go ahead, check this thing, pull this timer out. We'll be feeding, or rather putting corn in here in just a moment. Let's check the voltage now that we've got a little bit trickling into it. Hopefully this will last a little bit for a while. Back to 12 volt, so y'all can see what's going on here. And let's check our battery reading now. Again, that was, I think, 0.7. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Just an hour ago. Connect, and now where are we at? 11.7? Yeah, 11.7, 11.6. So big difference between 0.7 and 11.7. In just a moment, we'll run a test on this. Again, this thing sounded like it was a dying banshee, just hollering, which means it's low on voltage, amperage, and probably needs some WD-40 sprayed in the motor, and we'll do that as well. Let's throw this off to the side, stuff this in here. Again, I've got to change out that piggyback connection here in just a moment. Let's see if we can't power this thing up and throw it for a test before we fill it up with corn. Put it back up in the tree. Push the ready for the test. It's counting down, I'm sure. It's movie magic, guys. I can't really see what's going on with the screen. Hear that? There you go. That was 3 seconds. Yeah, it was more like 2 seconds. But the test spun up. It didn't make the crazy wailing sound, but it did spin. Not really strong, but it's on. So we'll put everything back together, fill this thing up, call it good. Now, as I've been putting this together, I feel that I've probably underestimated raccoons. So this wire that I have coming off of this panel into here, not only will I go ahead and caulk it from the inside to make sure that moisture doesn't get inside and mold corn any faster than it otherwise would, but I'm going to pick up some armor cabling from the hardware store next time I go into town and go ahead and armor cable this, because it just takes one really witty raccoon to ruin my day and play defuse the bomb or whatever they do, but they can do a lot of harm. I know there's a squirrel around. They usually don't mess with the wiring. Huck tells me there's a squirrel every time we come over here and check it. He's always checking the trees. So they're around as well. But those darn raccoons that always get me. Most days this will fit almost 2 bags. It's more like a bag and a half by volume, but almost 2 bags. back together. Gone ahead and set the timer for a few minutes from now. It can go off a couple times. This thing went dry about 3 days ago. The animals are probably wondering where their food is. Let's pick up our trash, crank this thing back up in the air, and sit back and I'll show you what a deer feeder looks like, sounds like. When you expect it, it's not much. But when you're out here hunting in the middle of winter and there is no sound, and your ears are primed for hearing any kind of stick break or branch or anything creak, it can really wake you up. So it's gotten more than a few people over the years. Well, group, that's about a wrap. Got the feeder back up and running. All I got to do is put that piggyback connection on within the next couple days. The battery should charge up and the animals will be happy out here once again. Go ahead and tell us what you think about this video. Please like, subscribe, comment. Ideas are always helpful. One thing I do need to mention though is that I got the voltage wrong on that battery several times. I think I put 0.7, something like that. And as some of you are going to correct me, it was 7 volts something. So for those of you who follow the channel, eyesight legally blind, be happy I can see as much to do with what I've done thus far. But back up and running, guys. Again, take care of yourselves, support a scout, and as always, until next time.